Hello there. You're witnessing the next episode of Investor Roundtable here at Equity Guru. We've got sitting around the table right now, it's a bit of a trifecta, as it were. We've got our founder, Chris Perry. Hello, Chris. Our technical expert, Vishal Tura. Hello. And I'm Galen, just sitting in the background chatting and laughing. That's where I go. We're going to talk today about a company, which we usually do on this show. I should probably explain what we're doing. We give you our pros and cons, how we feel about a particular company, sector, whatever, and we let you know what we think in terms of what we would invest, and you can make your decisions from there. So today we've got a nice little surprise to talk about. It's local. They're based out of Victoria, in fact. It's a company called Beacn Wizardry and Magic. Now, what would you gain from that title? What is it? What is it? Well, it's audio tech that's really, really, really interesting. They trade on the Vancouver or the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol BECN. The CEO is Craig Fraser, and it's a really interesting prospect. Hardware, software, it's everything a streamer needs. I'm going to talk to Chris here because he's been chatting with those fellows just recently and really knows a lot about the company, and I want you to fill us in on that.
Well, this right here, this beautiful thing is a Beacn microphone. I've had a few notes from the Beacn guys saying, hey, if you need any help calibrating that microphone, let us know. Because what I wanted to do was get it out of the box as a relative audio noob, use their software and tutorials to get it to a place where I thought it was at the level that it should be. They can clearly make good change with it and make it even better. But those who've been listening to our content for some time will know that occasionally the fans in my computer kick in, and occasionally the bar fridge under my desk kicks in, and then there's the traffic in the background behind us. It all kind of comes together to make for a blancmange of background noise that Galen then has to work very hard at removing. You might not be aware, but 6 months ago, Galen had hair, and
yeah, no longer
earlier. Then who knows. But the Beacn business model is pretty simple. These guys worked at companies that had have legacy market share, right? That put out really high-end microphones that the music business is all over. And what they found is that they thought streaming business is really picking up, and there are some opportunities there to maybe rethink how microphones are produced for the consumer and early stage prosumer market. So they put together this great little thing that I'm talking into, which has a lot of improvements over the traditional microphone setup, right? So we used to work with this guy, and you get that big fat 3-pin at the back, and the usual sort of like thing that's been around for 20 years with some improvements here and there. The back of the Beacn mic is different. It's a USB plug. Generally speaking, USB mics, not so high quality, but this one, you can USB it into any port and stick your headphone into the back of the microphone rather than having cables going all the way to the back of your computer and kind of getting tangled up. So just two small advances right there, making a real big difference. Now they've got the spinny, I don't know if you can pick up, they've got that sort of glowing light thing going on, which as a foreground extra for a streamer is a nice little touch. Yep. But the thing that's really made me interested was the software side of things. So generally speaking, your computer is doing your sound processing when you're streaming, creating video content. So it's also processing your video, and if you're streaming, it's sending all that out on the net. You've got third-party software products that are processing things, adding things. It's a lot of heavy lifting going on the computer. For most people, it probably doesn't make that much of a difference, but a high-end user, it makes a bit of a difference, especially if you've got all those background noises kicking in as well. For me, the processing creates more noise because the fans start kicking in on the computer, and so these guys have set up a software backend that with very simple usability, like talk to me like I'm 5 usability, but added onto software options that are distinctly high-end, right? So basically taking high-end usage and making it really easy for anyone to understand and make improvements at the software level. The software goes back into the microphone itself, where the audio is processed before it goes into your main computer, if that makes sense. There's hardware in this microphone that does the processing for you, so that all your machine is getting is the finished product, which to me makes so much sense. It's such a like a why didn't everybody do this 10 years ago kind of moment. The moat for them is the software. The software is really well put together. Couple of bugs early on, but hey, it's a small team, and these guys have been really reactive in updating the software and making sure that the thing gets better and better as it goes. Price-wise, it's a little bit on the upside. It's not like your $40 Best Buy microphones, but nothing good is. And if you're looking to do streaming as a business, spending a couple $100 on a microphone kind of makes a lot of sense. They also have, and I think Galen has that on his desk, some accessories there, where the Beacn Mix, where you can take multiple sound inputs and use a little push button dial gizmo that's at your fingertips, where you can say, well, this music is going to come in the background, but it's not going to go out over stream because we don't have licensing, or this phone call is coming in, or this other microphone's coming. Basically a mixing board, again, done in a really intuitive, simple to use way that adds to the usability of the product. Now, admittedly, as I said, not an audio file. So a lot of what I just said might have been mislabeled, might have been simplifying the way they would describe it as being guys that are, let's say, audio pointy heads. But here's the important thing for me. Every teenager in the world wants to be a YouTuber at the moment. Like, that's just, you're either going to be a rap star or you're going to be a YouTube star. That's it. Nobody wants to be a doctor or a lawyer anymore. And so what are you going to get for Christmas? You're going to get that microphone with the snazzy light that my favorite YouTubers are using, right? You're going to get that thing that is built for streamers rather than built for usage with an amp at a nightclub. You're going to get that thing that is the thing that your favorite influencers are on every stream saying, by the way, have you seen my cool microphone and heard how much better the audio sounds than it used to sound? If you stop this video right now and you go listen to any one of these investor roundtables from 6 months ago, you'll be shocked at how terrible my voice sounds. My voice right now, it sounds like an angel crying on your tongue. It's a purr. If any of you out there aren't in the throes of orgasm immediately right now, turn your volume up and get to that point.
Okay, sorry, there we go.
Yeah, doesn't take much. I know I'm waxing lyrical here, and as we've mentioned before, these guys have made it really clear to us as clients that they don't want to overhype things, right? They're not coming out here and saying, buy, this thing's going to the moon. They're not building a $1 billion company. What they're building is a company that right now, as we speak, is a $12 million company. What they'd like to do is to sell enough product that it justifies that becoming a $20 million market cap. And then maybe add a product or two, get it to $30 million market cap. They want to just slowly build this thing to a point where it is sustainable, predictable, where the money that's coming in is more than the money going out. They've gone and raised a bunch of cash so that they've got some runway. The risk is very low. They know what they're doing on the technical side. Go out to YouTube and type in Beacn microphone review, and you will find one after another guys that are out there, guys that specifically review microphones, right, and are into sound, who will say that this is a really interesting generational shift of a product. When the Yeti came out and the Snowball came out in the early days of podcasting, and I remember back in the day when we were doing Twitch streams from the Railtown place, and we were using like $40 microphones off Amazon, and we went through so many because they just don't do the job, right? They pick up some sound and stick it in your computer, but they're not allowing you to say, oh, you know what, there's a range where the traffic noise kicks in, and I can use the software to just take that range out. Sound better as a result. And, you know, I'm sure that Galen can talk about this too, because he's kind of played around with it a bit. But what I find really interesting is you don't get many Canadian tech companies in the hardware space. You certainly don't get them operating out of Vancouver Island. You certainly don't get them with guys that have the pedigree that these guys have, where they've worked for the biggest companies and been responsible for some big breakthroughs, and where they've decided, you know what, we're not going to try and raise $60 million and be in every electronics shop. We're just going to do a good product, build a name for ourselves, make it better as we go, learn from our mistakes, and try and make this something that is just a slow climb. Right now, the stock, and I'm sure Vishal will go into this, is illiquid, right? There's not enough eyeballs on the story for it to really have a sustained daily volume. Anytime you buy the stock, you're jumping at 10 cents. And it's a 29-cent stock. As we speak, it was 21 cents 10 minutes ago before I bought 500 shares. And now it's a 29-cent stock. So big jump today. But realistically, what they need is more people to know this story and just take a little position. You don't go out there and put the rent on it, but take a little position while it's inexpensive. Wait for dips, take more, and maybe even go out and buy the product and understand how good it is firsthand. But for mine, if you go and watch the YouTube tutorials on this product, it will sell you on the company. And I don't think you need to make any grand promises or wild claims. To me, this is the best microphone that we've used to this point. It took about 15 minutes of messing around with the software for me to figure out what was going on, and then 2 minutes of video tutorial for me to really move it to power user. I know that I can learn more and make it even better, and that when these guys listen to my stream, they're going to be pulling their hair out. But we'll talk to them later. I wanted to do the newbie self thing first to see the change, and then do the pro thing afterwards to see how good it can be. But the newbie side of it, just the 101, figuring it out as I go, really impressed.
Absolutely. And I agree wholeheartedly with Chris. This is a product that is an all-in-one solution that actually works. Some people have tried, it just really hasn't panned out that well, but you've got a company of audio professionals and industry leaders that are teamed up with this, that are very concerned about the quality of what they're putting out. It's not just something they want to sell immediately and then just kind of walk away from, like those hundreds of products that you see on Amazon. This is something that's actually built for a beginner user, but can be appreciated and utilized by a professional, which is a very interesting breadth in terms of demographic. So as Chris mentioned, this is a growing sector. Social media influencers, everybody wants to be one. And of course, not everybody's an audio specialist. And up until now, for the most part, if you wanted really good audio, you had to kind of know what you were doing. And it can become quite esoteric. So if you don't have the education, you usually ended up with a subpar product that you really couldn't sell. But then you ended up spending a shit ton of money on software that didn't really help you.
We've moved offices because of background noise.
Absolutely,
we wouldn't have had to have done that if we'd had this product.
Absolutely. As Chris said, it's incredibly intuitive, very easy to understand right out of the gate. And then as you progress, you can get deeper and deeper into it and do all sorts of things with it. The other thing which I thought was actually very interesting and also incredibly intuitive was their mixing hardware and software that they have. It's just a few dials, very easy to read. You know what everyone is doing, but what it offers you as a broadcaster or content creator is the ability to separate all audio. That's something you really haven't had to date. You had to kind of make sacrifices. Well, I got to use my computer sound so I can hear this person on Zoom, but then you hear that ding every once in a while when the computer goes off. Like you can't really separate it, right? What this does is it takes every audio stream and gives you the ability to not just separate it for performance and recording, but also to separate it in the streaming. Like as Chris mentioned, if you don't have the copyright for a particular piece of music, you don't necessarily have to send it over the stream. Or if you want to save something for later that you can put in your recorded product and that you put out to subscribers, it can be done on the fly. It's not something you have to do after the fact. That's the key to this. It's all real time. It's all done. It's all very intuitive. And as Chris mentioned earlier, these guys are out to build a business. This isn't some gadget, as I said before, that you're going to find on Amazon and then 3 months later, you're never going to find it again. This is something that they plan to build a business on and grow, but not insanely so. They are going to achieve a plateau, a goal, and they're going to let it settle for a bit, and then they're going to move ahead and reach that other realistic goal and move ahead a bit. So, as an investor, you're not faced with this idea that they're going to blow the wad on some big marketing scheme and then everything's going to fall down like a house of cards and the company's going to fall apart. These guys have a very considered business head on their shoulders, and this is where they intend to keep things. I really appreciate it. Plus, it's a home team, guys from Victoria. Why not? And there isn't in this term, as Chris mentioned, a lot of players, Canadian players in this space. And it's really kind of nice to see these guys step up to the plate and offer something that is truly, as Chris said, generational in terms of service provision. So that's it for me on that one. I like these guys. I'm going to move ahead and ask Vishal what he thinks in terms of technical, how he feels about Beacn Wizardry and Magic.
Right, for sure. So as Chris mentioned, the liquidity there, or the lack of liquidity, could be a problem for people who want to get in and out very quickly. So I think this is one that obviously, if you like the product, you like the company, you want to, maybe accumulate some shares here and there and hold for the longer term. I would actually, defer more to Chris and Galen for this one, just because they're using the product. So, they can tell you more about the product and what changes they've seen and improvements they've seen over other audio or microphones they've used, as you guys have all heard in this investor roundtable. I find, just a few comments. I find that whole, we're making a big deal about the little light thing on the microphone, but to be honest,
Hey, that's a big deal. Remember when Apple put out the iMac and you could choose purple, blue, green, yellow?
Yeah.
That was a company maker. And it was just a bit of plastic.
Exactly. Yeah. And when you go look at streamers now on Twitch and stuff, it's color everywhere. I see now all these like computer towers that are, glow, like they have the same sort of lighting on the computer towers, and the streamers make sure that that's front and center and everyone can see that. And all the comments on the stream is, oh, look at that computer tower, right? That's, obviously, that they say it in other ways, but it's always about that lighting, and it's always about standing out, right? Sticking out when you're a Twitch streamer. So I think that little light thing is actually a big deal, because I've seen that sort of flashy lights on computer towers and other gaming accessories, keyboards as well, right? That's a very famous one. You can get gaming keyboards that have those flashing lights on your keyboards now, too. So I think, we've talked a lot about this, but I think that is actually quite the big deal. I just interestingly, I did a search on Beacn setup, and I do see that Senpai Gaming, who I believe has like over 600,000 followers on YouTube, did a video about how to make your voice sound perfect with the Beacn Mic. So I think that might be something to check out as well. If you want a review from someone who does stream games, I think that would be worth checking out. When it comes to the charts, as we said, the liquidity there, or the lack of liquidity, could be an issue, although we did see that there was a few big purchases this year. January 12th, there's 60,000 shares traded on January 30th. I keep forgetting it's already February, so I had to think for a bit there. 22,500 on January 30th, 2023. So we have seen some days of big volume. What I can say is, when you have a chart like this that has, a few days where there's not much trading or no volume, and you want to look for sort of technical levels to work with if you're trying to determine breakouts and breakdowns, an easy thing to do is change your chart to a line chart. It's an old trick, very basic, but basically what you do is you play connect the dots. And you look for areas that have been price floor and price ceiling multiple times, where dots have been connected multiple times, and you just draw your levels around those zones. And obviously, the all-time highs and the all-time lows are levels that are very significant for the price. So as you can see right now, I have a support level here at 22.5 cents, and I think there's a resistance up here at about 34 cents. And right now, the stock is just trading, and it has been trading within this boundary since, since June of 2022 there. So obviously, if you're a bull, you want to see that break above 34 cents. However, if it does drift a bit lower, I think it is a good buying opportunity, because we would be holding that support that you can see here has had 4 touches at 22 cents there in the past. So 22 cents to the downside, 34 cents to the upside. And again, that's, if you are looking for breakouts and breakdowns. But I think, as I said, Chris and Galen, what they've been saying about the product, why that product is going to, could potentially change the way you stream and Twitch and, people stream. I think that's worth more than the charts right now, because that's really what people will have to essentially invest in, right? The product itself and the quality that that product has. So that's really what I know. It's not much I can say on the charts for this one, but that's really what I would be doing. I would be looking more of the product, looking at testing the product out for myself. And then obviously you have your technical levels that you can play with when you're looking for breakouts and breakdowns. So this is sort of one that, still early stages. So if you really like the product, you think it's, revolutionary, you'd want to take some shares here and there and play it for the long term, of course.
There you go.
People need to understand, especially like early stage investors, young investors, new investors, is on a stock like this, if it's being offered for 21 cents and it's for sale at 29.5, you don't just need to go out there and buy it at 29.5. What's missing on this stock is liquidity, like trading volume. So let's say you want to buy $3,000 worth of the stock. Instead of just going out and paying the high price, you got this big 8-cent gap, right? So, hey, set some at 25 cents, a limit at 25 cents, set some more at 27, set some more at 29. If a couple of people do that, then the base of this thing isn't 21 cents anymore. It's, it goes up in stages. And what you're building is, if someone comes along and says, I want to sell a quick 1,000 shares of this, and you're not there, your trade still goes through, right? You're actually like creating more volume while just posting up and waiting for someone to sell. So like, I just bought a couple of 100 shares of this thing, and it jumped from 21 cents to 29. I'm an impatient bastard. I just wanted the stock. But, ideally, if the three of us decided to throw $2,000 each thing and set steps so that the market had confidence that there were people buying the stock, there's going to be a lot more confidence in people buying at higher prices because they think they can get out of it without having to shred the share price. This isn't a trading stock at all. You'll lose your ass if you're trading this. But if you're investing long term, it doesn't really matter whether you get 21 cents, 23 cents, 25 cents, 29. It's going to go up at some point, in your opinion. Then, all right, just go ahead and do it. But like, what this stock really needs is 3 to 5 people who are actively buying the stock, because right now it's very insider held, and they're not going out of their way to sell stock at all, right? It kind of needs a market maker, really. The people who hold this stock are in no rush to sell. People who are looking to buy the stock know that there's no rush to buy, and this is the problem. But a couple of news releases going out with positive news, a couple of big revenue quarters, and this thing suddenly starts to move. The beauty of an illiquid stock is if 3 or 4 people decide now is the time, then it goes parabolic, because there's no one really out there looking to sell it at a cheap price. If this was a shitty stock, all the people who were there at 29 cents, 30 cents, 31 cents, they'd all be selling into the guys that are looking to buy at 21. That's not happening. You've got 2 opposing camps. The guys that are happy to get in cheap and take their time with it because they don't feel like there's a rush, and the guys that are happy to sell expensive because they're not in any rush. When we fill that middle bit, this stock gets real interesting, because the moment there's a sway in one direction or the other, then you start your momentum, right? And if a bunch of people out there become aware of this, start posting up, waiting and putting their orders in, I can honestly say that my experience with stocks like this is that it's going to go all over the place. It's going to go way up. It's going to come way down until that compression comes in the middle.
Oh, there you go. So $5,000. I went through my couch. I found some change. I give enough for us to invest $5,000 a piece.
Stock, it goes bonkers right now.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If we put $5,000 down, like, we should talk about this offline. But if we put $5,000 down, I look at the level 2s right now. It's about 10 grand worth of buying to get it way into the mid-30s.
Okay.
So
Well, there you go.
that's
Opportunity abounds.
interesting, but also about the same amount of selling to get it down to 18 cents.
Yeah. So there you go.
It's not a
Don't
trade,
sell.
but like
It's not a
if you
trade.
believe in the product, and I believe in the product, and if you believe in the people, and the people who kick my ass significantly enough for over promoting this thing, which isn't something that happens to me very often because I'm normally a little bit aggressive against our clients. I think it's a good combination.
There you go. Awesome. Well, there we are right there. You could be a market mover yourself if you feel like it, or market maker, I should say. We've been talking about Beacn Wizardry and Magic, based out of Victoria and trading on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol B as in boy, E as in Edward, C as in Charlie, N as in Norman. It's BECN at Toronto TSX Venture Exchange, led by CEO Craig Fraser. It's a very interesting audio tech proposition. You should take a look at it, but don't take our word for it. We've given you this information so you can take it away and mull over yourself and figure out for your own whether or not you want to put this in your portfolio. But please do check them out. And well, that's it for us. This particular episode, we're going to mosey on down the road, and we will see you next time. That is it for me, Galen. Right beside me here is Chris Perry, our founder at Equity Guru, and then we have our technical genius, Vishal Tura, below.
Genius,
Right.
you're a genius.
He's a genius.
You're a genius.
Exactly. All right, take care. Bye-bye.